A very good morning to everyone. So today I'll be doing the news analysis of the review dated 26th of October. I have shared the screen with you. Okay. So the first thing that we saw in the review is Cabinet panel clears funds for dam project in Uttarakhand. So what is the dam project? The region is talking about. So it says that the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, that is your CCEA, on Wednesday approved the central support of rupees 1,557 crores to Uttarakhand for the proposed Jamrani Dam project in Nainital district. So the project is Jamrani Dam project. The multi-purpose project estimated to cost rupees 2,500 crore is scheduled to be completed by 2028. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved the inclusion of project under the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojna Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program. So the Cabinet Committee has approved the inclusion of the project under which Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojna. The project envisages the construction of a dam near Jamrani village across the river Gola, a tributary of Ramganga in Nainital. So, by going by this, what becomes important for you to cover is just a minute. Okay, so what becomes important for you here is the first is your dam project, and then this dam project is where this is Jamrani. And Jamrani Dam located where? The location of this is in Jamrani village. Jamrani village, and this is where near the river Gola. And it is a tributary of Ramganga. Right. Now this is a tributary of Ramganga where in Nainital. Fine. And this dam project, CCA, that is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, has approved this project inclusion under this project's inclusion under Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojna. So the project is included under Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojna. Fine. Now the next news. women, marriage, and labor market participation. Well, we have done many articles pertaining to this topic, how the marriage in Indian society kind of restricts women's working or women's participation in the labor market. So how is this happening, or why? What is the reason behind it? So let's do the analysis of this editorial. Now, women, marriage, and labor market participation. So, women's labor market participation is often concomitant with enhanced economic prospects and better household decision-making power. From a macroeconomic standpoint, a diminished level of women's labor force participation rate has significant consequences for women's intra and inter-household bargaining power, as well as the overall economic progress of the nation. There are still large differences between women and men in terms of what they do, how they are remunerated, and so on, said Claudia Gordon. Now, again, Claudia Gordon's study is done over here, so she plays very important role in this women's and labor market participation. Now, Claudia Golin, who was awarded this year's Economic Nobel for having advanced our understanding of women's labor market outcomes, Golden's comprehensive analysis of the economic history of women has presented new insights into many aspects of gender disparities in the labor market. Additionally, her research has shown the underlying factors that have contributed to these gaps throughout history and the persisting inequalities that exist in contemporary times. So now what are the data showing? So data shows how labor participation is there. If I talk about globally, however, the level of female labor force participation remains relatively low. So the participation is low. World Bank estimates show that the worldwide labor force participation rate for women was 47% in 2022. So, if you see the year of 2022, the participation is 47%. Despite remarkable advancement observed in the global economies, there has been a persistent decline in the labor force participation rate of women in developing nations. That means even though there has been advancements in the economy, but these advancements has nowhere contributed towards what this advancement has nowhere contributed towards the participation of women in the labor force market. Right. So now let's begin with what else the data are representing. Okay. The estimates also indicate that female labor force participation in India between 1990 and 2022 has decreased from 28% to 24. That means from the time period of 1990 to 2022, the participation has decreased from 28% to 24%. Now, this fall has impeded their growth and hindered their ability to achieve their maximum capabilities. A significant disparity in labor market participation based on gender continues to persist worldwide. Economist Golden 1994 highlights this as the labor force participation rate of adult women exhibits a U-shaped pattern during the course of economic growth. Further, she added that the initial decline in the participation rate is due to the movement of production from household, family farm, small businesses to wider market and to a stronger economic effect. So, what is or how is the economy is affecting the decline, or it is leading to a decline in this participation rate? But the income effect weakens and the substitution effect strengthens to some point. The issue is made considerably dire when the married woman express a desire to participate in the labor market. After marriage, there is a tendency for women's labor force participation rate to decrease. Again, one thing they are saying is that after marriage, women's participation in the labor force tends to decrease. Now, what is happening over there? So, when the participation rate of the women is declining, what is the cause behind it? These factors encompasses women's limited educational attainment, less mobility as a result of increasing family obligations, societal disapproval associated with women in employment outside the domestic spheres. The institution of marriage amplifies domestic obligations for women while concurrently imposing many social and cultural impediments that affect their participation in the workforce. Multiple factors contribute to the diminished labor force involvement of married women or their proclivity to exist the labor field after marriage. The labor market entry of women is influenced by a range of individual and societal factors. And now what are those? Perhaps impacting married women to a greater extent than their married counterparts. So, what are the several variables contributing to limited labor force participation for women? Such as now there are certain factors that the author has highlighted. What are those? First thing, the labor force participation of women. First thing that they are talking about is religious and caste affiliations. First is religious and caste affiliations. Second is the geographical location. That means the place where the woman is staying, or the women are staying, and the place where the workplace is. So, workplace and women. So, both the geographical factors contributes towards what or is highly influencing the participation of participation of women. Just a minute, it has hanged. Hold on for a second. So, participation of women in work. Fine. Other than that, what they are saying, now the wealth of the household. Now, this again plays a very big role. Other one is your prevailing societal norms surrounding women's employment outside the house. So, prevailing societal norms. So, prevailing societal norms surrounding women's employment. That means outside the right. So these are certain things. Now, what are the other challenges that women's participation is dealing with? So other challenges are when women decide to resume their professional careers upon marriage, they tend to exhibit a preference for some employment opportunities that offer enhanced flexibility and are situated in close proximity to the residence. Now, again, this is what I said that the geographic location is playing a very important role in case of women and the workplace they are working, because if it is flexible enough to switch, so or it is easy for traveling purpose, then priority lies over there. Now, other than that, what else is happening? Women also encounter gender asymmetrical professional costs as a result of several societal constraints, resulting in gender disparities in premarital career selections, income inequality, age at marriage, and decisions about fertility decisions. Now, it has been observed that women of the upper strata tend to adhere to stringent societal standards by predominantly assuming the domestic roles. That means, see, what is the expectation from the married woman is that the domestic roles should be their priority. So when domestic roles become their priority, ultimately the career choices, are getting on to the next option. So that's what they are saying, that the priority shifts towards household domestic roles. Fine. Conversely, women from the lower strata are more inclined to engage in the labor market, primarily driven by the economic constraint that stem from poverty. Now, the author is saying that it's usually the women who are coming from the lower strata whom you will see participating in the economy. Why? Because of their poor economic conditions. So, because these women are, struggling with the economic conditions, and that is the reason why their participation is there in the economy. Why? And this is because of, or this is stemming from poverty. Okay, so other than that, what they are saying now, when analyzing the female labor force participation rate, now this is based on the usual principle and subsidiary status. So, what is the point over there? Now, based on the usual principal status and the usual principal and subsidiary status categories in India's NSSO periodic labor force survey, that is from the age of 25 to 49 years, it becomes apparent that married women show a considerably lower employment quotient under the UPS status, that is your usual principal status, when compared to UPSS, that is your usual principal subsidiary status. The data show that marriage significantly influences the women's labor market outcome. In 2023, okay, in 2023, what is happening is um, there has been a notable decrease of 5% in women and females labor force participation rate among married women aged 25 to 49 years, with a decline from 50% in 2004 to 45% in 2022. The decline in the female labor force participation rate is primarily concentrated within the age group of 25 to 29. Further, married women exhibit lower levels of labor force participation when compared to their unmarried counterparts. The examination of the influence of educational achievement on the rate of married women's involvement in the labor force shows that women lacking literacy skills demonstrate a greater inclination to participate in the labor force after getting married as opposed to their well educated counterparts. So, there are two things and two very broad perspectives coming. For example, what they are saying is that one side we have women who are skilled, and then we have another side where the women are unskilled. So it is the scenario after marriage. What we find is that the unskilled one they show high inclination towards inclination of marriage or high inclination of participation in the labor force. And this is the position after marriage in case of unskilled and skilled labor or skilled women counterparts. Uh, Even though they have good literacy, good skills, however, their inclination is very less towards work in labor. Empirical analysis that relates to the allocation of female labor across the diverse industry sector in India demonstrate that agriculture remains the prevailing sector in terms of female employment. Now, what are the solutions to pursue so? Literature on female labor force participation rate has underscored the noteworthy impact of social cultural element on women's choices about their entry into labor market. Now, this analysis primarily examines the relationship between women's marital status and their labor market outcome in the Indian labor market. Now, the findings indicate that married women exhibit the lowest levels of labor market participation as compared to the widowed, divorced, and unmarried women. So, what are your findings with respect to the labor force participation rates? Are saying that the married women exhibit the lowest level of labor market participation as compared to the ones. So, married women's they show less labor force participation. So they show less labor force participation, and when we compare to the women who are widowed, divorced, or unmarried, so compared to the women who are divorced, who are widowed, or who are unmarried. The economic impact of married women's non-participation in the workforce in India is considerable, given their substantial representation among the working age population. It is imperative to look at suitable solutions in order to promote women's empowerment in the phase of high economic growth. The absence of adequate daycare services frequently acts as a disincentive for female labor force participation. That means the reason why the married women have to switch, or you can say they have to quit their work. Why? Because of the demand of daycare. So adequate daycare services, so because of daycare services that is demanded. Therefore, it is imperative to enhance the quality and accessibility of daycare services, precious for employed women across various socio-economic strata. So they are saying, hence, what is needed, the precious service, or you can say the daycare services. Why? For the woman to operate or to participate in labor market. Yes, national treasure scheme for the children of working mothers. The implementation of such scheme is imperative in both the public and private sectors. And this is particularly important in what increasing the involvement of married women in the labor field. The implementation of work settings that prioritizes the needs and well-being of a woman, the provision of secure transportation options, expansion of part-time job possibilities will serve as catalyst for the greater participation of women within India. So what they are saying is, um, if you want what more participation, or if you want increase in women's participation, so what you need to do is first you need to take care of their needs and well-beings. So take care of their needs and well-being. Second, they are saying that when you are taking care of the needs and well-being of the women, second one is you should have secure transportation options as well. So they are demanding. Just a minute. Okay, so they are demanding secure transportation, and the other one is they are saying that if you have, or if you increase the part-time jobs. So if there are enough of part-time jobs, what is going to happen? Somewhere or other they'll start working from home. So and based on their convenience, finally if they want to, do it only, at the shift shift based on night time, so that will be convenient for them. So increasing the part-time jobs. And what is happening is all these is going to act as what catalyst for women participation in workforce. Fine. Now this is women marriage and labor market participation. Next is unhealthy urban India. Must get into street fight mode. Now, India's urban population is estimated to reach 66 and 50 million in 2025, the second highest in the world. Although there is a widespread recognition that the cities have been fueling India's rapid rise to economic superpower status, almost all are failing their inhabitants in terms of delivering on health, environment, and equity targets. So the author is of the opinion that even though we are rising in economy, and they are sought to achieve what the status of superpower, But there are certain things where we have failed to deliver, and those certain things that the author has targeted is your health, environment, and equity. So, health, environment, and equity targets where failing to urban India and multiple health risks. Now, India's urban inhabitants experience multi-scalar health risks, including the world's highest level of air and noise pollution, limited greenery, lack of access to sidewalks and parks that limit active lifestyles, archaic modes of transport that contribute to air pollution. Now, pernicious access to nutritionally dense, unhealthy food, unprecedented exposure to toxic chemicals and heavy metals. This concatenation of exposure dramatically magnifies health risk for heart disease and diabetes, referred to as cardiometabolic disease, especially when combined with the lack of physical activity. Of all the behaviors well known to mitigate the development of cardiometabolic disease, physical activity is by far the most effective treatment. Not surprisingly, the cities of India are amidst an epidemic of historic proportion in these disorders. Now, addressing the diverse and multi-scaled social, environmental, and infrastructure risk factors. Now, this contribute to cardiometabolic risk in cities. Now, by transforming the design of the built local environment as well as provisioning system, this represents a new paradigm for public health. So, globally, there are seven key physical provisioning systems that provide food, energy, uh, transportation, housing, green infrastructure, water, waste management that lie at the core of human health, well-being, equity, and sustainability. So this functional provisioning system consumes more than 90% of the world's water and global CO2 emissions and facilitates an estimated 19 million premature deaths annually. So what you see is your dysfunctional provisionings, they kind of lead to 19 million premature deaths. The socio-spatial political design of urban provisioning systems in India, many of which are legacies of colonial past, manifests in and exacerbates social inequalities in cities by class, race, age, migrant, and disability status, translating to vast disparities in health risk and outcome. Now, based on primary importance of India's cities for its future, a new narrative for improving health and well-being in cities that you need to narrative so as to improve health and well-being of the or health and well-being in the cities. Now, this is reflected in several high-level policy frameworks such as UN SDGs, new urban agenda, and the health in all policies approach. Now, double or triple duty actions. Investments such as clean energy and electric mobility, which are underway in India, offer once in a lifetime opportunity to improve health through their immediate and dramatic impact of air pollution levels, while also helping meet India's climate and equity goals. While these developments are extraordinarily important, the magnitude of their impact on health outcome is at risk of being limited. Uh, Indeed, studies show that even small changes in the latter systems may have a large catalytic effect on the health and productivity. And this serve as double duty or triple duty interventions. Now, what is that? For example, making way for safe walking and biking lanes, pavements, no car zones can help not only improve physical activity and reduce sedentary lifestyles but also reduce the risk from air pollution. Now, regular physical exercise has been to effectively mitigate the impact of other risk factors such as poor diets, particularly those rich in calories and saturated fats. So, what they are saying is that if you are going to the thing of regular cycling, this is going to do what? Reduce fats. And why fats? Because of unhealthy lifestyles. Other than that, what they are saying is the dietary ingestion of excess calories without adequate physical expenditure fuels a vicious cycle of insulin spikes, excess fat deposition that together with inflammation sets the stage for a heart disease. So the author is concerned about the heart disease, or you can say the cardiovascular disease. And all this is why? Because going to in this regard, it is well known that exercise may not only help expand excess calories, promoting weight loss and reducing diabetes risk, but also can act as an effective bulwark for against the heart diseases. So, for cardiovascular diseases, exercise is going to act as a bulwark. Walking and biking on many Indian roads. So, biking on walking and biking on many Indian roads is not only hazardous but also nearly impossible as sidewalks are overwhelmed by building and human ways, parked vehicles and street hawkers. Health impact studies this study indicate that the health and the economic benefit of increasing mobility and active transportation vastly exceed that which may be derived by transitioning to electrifying transportation alone. That means if you are using what? Electric transportation, transportation could provide effects. Studies that have modeled the economic and health impact of the clean energy transition in the transportation sectors. Now, these are currently based almost entirely on the reduction in air pollution and its associated health impact. Now, ensuring that the transition to electric cars also paves the way for active transport options such as walking paths, bicycling lanes may not only provide a mechanism to connect the last mile, but health and consequent economic benefits of active transportation. Now, this shall accrue on the top of what? On the top of the benefits of reducing air pollution, making such investments even more economically viable. So, increasing active transportation by any means must be a critical component of clean energy policy. Similarly, policies that encourage fresh fruits, vegetables, and limit sugars and salt in beverages, which may have the largest impact on health outcomes such as obesity and type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, may help contribute to not only better health. Now, urban policies are powerful public health interventions that can serve to promote population health. Health is unfortunately an afterthought in most national urban planning policies and mostly non existent in national urban policy documents from lower and middle income countries. Uh, Other than that, unhealthy diets, reduced physical activity, and air pollution in cities in India pose a greater risk to morbidity and mortality than most other risk factors combined, including the drugs, tobacco, alcohol, and accident. So all this need to be dealt with on a war footing if India is going to make progress in fight against cardiovascular disease, obesity, and T2D, that is your type 2 diabetes. This will necessarily entail a street fight. Now, what they are saying is that the author, primarily the three things what author has focused with respect to this article is your cardiovascular disease, then is your obesity, then is your type 2 diabetes. Now, these are the things, three things that the author has talked about, and he has focused on this aspect. Why? Because probably they are the one who are going to fight, or what India has to fight is these three diseases. So your India has to fight against these three diseases. To fight against the fine. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the legality of using white phosphorus. Now, Human Rights Watch recently accused Israel of using white phosphorus munitions in Gaza and said that such weapons put civilians at risk of serious and long-term injuries. In 2008 to 2009 Gaza War 2, there were allegations that Israel Defense Force struck the Gaza Strip with some munitions containing white phosphorus. Now, the Israeli government, which initially denied this, later acknowledged that it did use white phosphorus. Now, in 2009, but only in uninhabitable areas for the purpose of signaling and marking. Now, what is this white phosphorus? Why is it considered to be this dangerous? So, toxic substance. In the summary of the reports, that is United Nations Headquarters Board of Enquiry, what have they talked about? Uh, in the summary of the reports of the United Nations Headquarters Board of Inquiry into certain incidents in Gaza Strip between they did this, and the then UN Secretary General said that the just a minute, Israeli Defense Force had targeted certain UN facilities and asserted that any precautions that were taken by the Israeli Defense Force were clearly inadequate in view of firing of high explosive shells into the compound. Further, the UN fact-finding mission on Gaza conflict, also called Goldstein report, condemned that Israeli Defense Force used white phosphorus in civilian areas. Due to the mounting outrage both at international and domestic levels, in case of Haas and others versus Chief of Staff 2013, Israeli military agreed to abandon the use of white force except in the situations which they communicated to the justice at Israeli High Court. That means they had, agreed for what? Abandoning use of white phosphorus. The court recommended the consideration of alternatives. The outrage over the use of the toxic substance led to calls for investigations into whether its uses constituted a violation of international humanitarian law. Now, white phosphorus has a wide range of application. It is useful in military operations, but it also poses environmental dangers. So, white phosphorus can be employed to create dense smoke screens in the context of combating hindering visibility, providing cover for military maneuvers. Additionally, it can be used in incendiary devices such as grenades, artillery shells, which can result in persistent, intense fires, and this is effective against people, equipment, and structures. However, the ethical concerns surrounding its use in the populated areas are significant due to its potential to cause severe burns and suffering. Convention on certain conventional weapons imposes restrictions on the use of incendiary weapons, including the white phosphorus. That means the use of white phosphorus is so much dangerous that it has been subject to rules and principles of international humanitarian law, now which aim to minimize harm to both civilians and combat in armed conflict. This includes what principles of distinction, which requires differentiation between combatants and civilians, proportionality, ensuring that military actions do not cause excessive harm to civilians compared to military advantage south. International humanitarian law also prohibits indiscriminate attacks that may disproportionately harm civilians and civilian objects. Now, what are the incendiary weapons? Protocol 3 under CCW. Now, what are they specifically dealing with? Now, they are specifically dealing with the incendiary weapons. Article 1 of this rule defines an incendiary weapon as a weapon or munition primarily designed to set fire to objects or to cause burn injury or to persons through the action of flame, heat, or combination thereof. Now, this produces what? A chemical reaction of a substance delivered on the target. Article 1BI. Uh, or you can say 1B1, includes an exemption in this classification for munition that may cause unintended incendiary effects. And what are those? For example, the illuminants, the tracers, smoke, or the signaling system. So, white phosphorus munitions are primarily intended to produce illuminating and smoke screen effects, with the incendiary aspects being secondary or unintentional. Consequently, incendiary munitions clearly fall within the exceptions outlined in Protocol 3's definition of an incendiary weapon. The the Chemical Weapons Convention is a treaty. Now, what is this kind of treaty that establishes a comprehensive ban on the use of chemical weapons? White phosphorus, although chemical agent and toxic, is not covered by CWC. That means the chemical weapon CWC is a treaty that establishes a comprehensive ban on the use of chemical weapons. White phosphorus, although is a chemical agent, but it is not covered by CWC. It is not covered under the Chemical Weapon Convention. When employed as an incendiary weapon and not for chemical warfare, white phosphorus falls under the regulation of Protocol 3 of CCW. However, Protocol 3 does not effectively regulate multi-purpose munitions such as those containing white phosphorus. which can cause harm in same way as the incendiary weapon it defines. Strengthening Protocol 3 would be a progressive step in terms of legal and procedural process. In this context, it is important to consider the advisory opinion on the legality of threat or the use of nuclear weapons. Now, what is the consequence of such, or what do you feel? Employing white phosphorus would bring what kind of changes into the marketplace or the international level based on the security? So, the legal consequence of employing white phosphorus in warfare emphasizes the utmost importance of what upholding international laws, treaties, and protocols to reduce harm to both civilians and the environment. Breaches of these legal principles can lead to global contempt, investigation, potential prosecution for war crimes. Strengthening Protocol 3 would create a binding agreement for the states, and this shall prevent them from engaging in the uses that exploit legal loopholes. Now, removing ambiguities in Protocol 3 would also facilitate what? Enforcement, because with clearer rules, violations will become more easily identifiable. So what they are saying is that, there should be international laws, treaties, and protocols for what, how is the white phosphorus affecting your civilians and your environment. Right? So the author is talking about what? Reducing the ambiguities. Fine. Okay. Moving on to the next article. Now, if you see, I am short of time, but I have done that women's participation month. So, how big is the gender gap in earnings? So, again, this is important. So, if you see the article, they have talked about what income gap, and women tend to work fewer hours per week than men, influenced by various factors. That is what societal expectations, personal choices. Although these factors aren't will always easily separable. Why? Because this is the social expectations. Are not separable. So what they are saying, male and female ratio of weekly earnings. So regular wages is this, casual one is this, and self-employment is this. This is the male-female ratio of weekly earnings. Now, when it comes to male-female ratio of the hours of work that they have performed, the graph is talking about what in the self-employment status, what is the ratio, the regular wages, what is the ratio, the casual wage, what is the ratio. When they talk about the male-female ratio of hourly earnings, this the thing with respect to the self-employment, and this is about you can they are saying about hourly earnings. This is about the hours worked. This is about the weekly earnings. Fine. Now, since this is here, the Mahabodhi temple illuminated in Bodh. So, what you can do here is, with respect to art and culture, your Buddhism section becomes important because they are talking about the Mahabodhi temple. So, you need to study about the religious philosophies. Apart from that, International Solar Alliance to release report on global adoption of solar technology. So the International Solar Alliance, uh, gathering of 116 member countries, formed to accelerate the global adoption of solar technology. This is inspired by first ever global stock take of the United Nations Convention. Here, countries are expected to give an account of the actions taken until the transitions of their economies away from the fossil fuel. The solar stock take would be released in mid-November. In 2020, nearly $300 billion of investment in solar has taken place. What are the key focus areas? The International Solar Alliances, which is steered by India and France, is scheduled to hold its sixth annual meeting in Delhi. A key focus area for the organization is expanding what solar installations in Africa, and to that end, the organization has set up what global solar facility. Now, what is the aim for this? The aim is to boost the scale of solar investment following the expand to West Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean islands. Now, the global solar facility will have three funds: payment guarantee fund, insurance fund, and an investment fund. Other than that, what they're saying is solar photovoltaic installations globally touch this much, with 191 gigawatt being added. Other than that, China is followed by US, a member country at 111 gigawatts. India ranks among the top 5 countries globally with 62 gigawatts. We believe that the International Solar Alliance has a seminal role to play in energy transition as it has focused only on the renewables and the solars. India's experience in this regard has been substantial. Rate of growth of renewable energy capacity in our country has been among the highest in the world. So for universal access, solar energy is the solution. This is what our Union Minister of Power and Renewable Energy are saying. Okay, so this much for today. I shall be meeting you tomorrow. We shall do the next analysis tomorrow. Thank you so much.